Hello and welcome to
Dave?
That's him, Mickey's Shiny Side Out on WZZR, coming to you from Australian land under full of crisis sectors just on the Denver airport for Revolution Radio on revolution.radio. That's right. It's cold in Denver today. It's cold in Denver every day. It's home to ideas which are fresh, which is good. That's good. Chat. I'm not in the chat. I will get into the chat when I get a chance. My machine is an Apple, so I haven't really been suffering from the outages, except that the internet is slow.
Oh, isn't it?
It is slow. Ay vey. This is show number 645, 540, and 600.
Correct.
That's a lot of shows. You can catch us on the air, on the line all the time, and on your smart device, so grab an app to listen. If you don't like apps, that's okay. Anywhere, or listen at home on a Grace table of digital radio. I really would like to see some royalties here. One day, something.
Yeah.
Send me a Grace Tabletop Digital Radio. Why not? Why don't you? If you missed Solaris' show, that's okay. That's all right, because we have archives, which are free. Yeah, free, delicious. That's right. So please go ahead and catch her show there, because it is worthwhile. She's she's many things, actually. She's a plethora of things. A cornucopia, a veritable Fint horn of things. She's producing, experiencing, she is documenting, exploring, researching, writing, all those wonderful things. She's doing it all. So that's if you haven't had a chance, which is unlikely. I mean, if you're listening to this, there's no way you didn't listen to her first. So, but if you haven't and you're catching this on YouTube or somewhere else, on some other platform, do give Solaris a look in. You won't regret it. I promise. I make many promises, and I never make promises I can't keep. So please do that. In fact, we're having a guest on today a little bit later, just in a few moments. That is a very frequent guest on Solaris' show, which I'm very excited about. Now, archives, like I said, are free, which is great. Now, before we start broadcasting at you in anger, we would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land from which we broadcast.
And
for
Dave, me, yes, it's the Darkinjung.
Thank you, sir. And for myself, of course, the Rock people. And we would like to pay our respects to elders past, present, and future. Following hot on the heels of the welcoming to land, our country rather, I would like to apologize for my absence on Tuesday and Thursday, but I know Dave did a fantastic job on Plato's Cave. I was otherwise engaged, detained unavoidably. These things happen, not often, and certainly never twice in a week. But this was the first time, so let's see how that plays out. But again, my apologies, but here we are. There is something I would like to say, Dave, before we start.
Sure,
and
man, you've got the floor.
This is Bill Hicks.
Mm-hmm.
The world is like a ride in an amusement park, and when you choose to go on it, you think it's real, because that's how powerful our minds are. The ride goes up and down, around and around. It has thrills and chills, and it's very brightly colored, and it's very loud, and it's fun for a while. Many people have been on the ride a long time, and they begin to wonder, hey, is this real? Or is this just a ride? And other people have remembered, and they come back to us and they say, hey, don't worry, don't be afraid, ever, because this is just a ride. And we kill those people. Shut them up. I've got a lot of invested in this ride. Shut them up. Look at my furrows of worry. Look at my big bank account and my family. This has to be real. It's just a ride. But we always kill the good guys who try and tell us that. You ever noticed that? And let the demons run amok. But it doesn't matter, because it's just a ride. And we can change it anytime we want. It's only a choice. No effort, no work, no job, no savings of money. Just a simple choice right now between fear and love. The eyes of fear want you to put bigger locks on your doors, buy guns, close yourself off. The eyes of love instead see all of us as one. Here's what we can do to change the world right now to a better ride. Take all that money we spent on weapons and defenses each year and instead spend it feeding and clothing and educating the poor of the world, which it would pay for. many times over. Not one human being excluded. And we could explore space together, both inner and outer, forever, in peace. Now, Bill Hicks passed away in his 30s now, a long time ago. But this remains true nonetheless. It's just... And I couldn't agree more. And I know we keep talking about it, but truly, we can no longer afford billionaires. We can no longer afford for the few to have everything and for the many to have nothing. We just can't afford it. Just can't. Anyway, that's what I think, Dave. What do you think?
Well, number one, Bill Hicks, awesome. He had a very large voice and a platform and a delivery mechanism for his ideas. And without those, he would sadly be forgotten in history. But he isn't. And it's appreciated that he came around in the time when he did, for him to leave those messages, those marks, and those theories there for us to postulate and understand, just like others have shoulders. Not the others have shoulders, but the others, and then semicolon, shoulders of those who have come before. It's almost exactly the same. Words are iterated in Ghost in the Shell, Mickey, in the Matrix movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, are we? And it's poignant to today's up and down, left and right, jostling about as though we are in a ride car on a roller coaster. It's totally there. If it was doing nothing, we'd question more about our external inputs, but we don't. We're more inward looking, Mickey. Because we're going through the experience, we're yet to put it all together. And that's one
Agreed.
of the points he makes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to. I had something to mention immediately, and that was, if you're not aware of the one electron universe theory by Feynman, I think it was Richard Feynman, but he, back in the 40s, he came up with this because there's something really unusual about our universe and the quantum world, for instance, without repeating anything that we've already mentioned in any other show. His idea is that all electrons are the one same electron. That they are indeed, there's only one electron in the entire universe, and that all the matter everywhere has this one electron in it, in quantum entangled one electron. Done. Even positrons, who are an antimatter electron, is just moving backward and forward in time, depending on where you are, and you can smash them into each other, but it goes back in time to re-exist again. It's a very it's like, have a look at it. It's called One Electron Universe, and you'll find it on Wikipedia. It's the only thing that I would say in Wikipedia that is accurate. I hate the rest of Wikipedia. They can go jump. I don't care. I hate them because you can't make changes unless you even if you wrote the paper, you're still not allowed to make changes to it. I just don't understand their hierarchy. So, Mickey.
No, look.
How's that for a theory?
No, but look, yeah, it's actually one of my favorite ones, to be honest with you. And the reason he proposed this, it was back in 1940, by the way, just in case you're thinking this happened yesterday, everybody. Not quite. It's because they're all the same. Each electron measures exactly the same as every other electron.
Exactly right. And how are they made? How?
Well,
how are they all made to be identical?
In God's forge. Now silence you. What? But that's funny. But yeah, it's a fascinating theory. And the thing is this. There's really nothing that would or that we know of at the moment, that would contradict this particular theory. I mean, we can't prove it at the moment,
No.
right? But we can't disprove it either. I mean, that's the thing with the hypothesis. Really, it's difficult either way. But it's a really interesting thought experiment. So it's the one. So what that means, of course, because the electron is probably the smallest unit of matter that we have, the smallest unit of matter, like us, right? Now, if that's true, if there was only one electron in the, well, maybe in the multiverse, who knows, right? Then we truly are all the same. Like, I mean, literally, not metaphorically at all, but literally, we're all the same,
Exactly.
which is really quite amazing. Is it possible? Well, yeah, it is. Would this be? I mean,
the combination of elements. The combination of growing numbers of electrons that require a growing number of inside the nucleus of the atom, a growing number of components for the balance to be there, or the want or a dislike of having other electrons. The shell model just doesn't work in reality. It works. It's good for equations and working things out, and how many shells are there, how many electrons per shell, and saying is that element accepting of other electrons, and can it be chemically changed? So can you undergo an experiment in which you add or subtract, right? Can it be broken in half? Because you know what the outcome's going to be. This is such an extraordinary view, which I was yesterday old when I heard about one electron, that I have to question it, but I'm more questioning the electron itself, not his theory. I don't question his theory. It's a good theory. It stands on its own, been peer reviewed, and people just go, you know what? Sure, it's a good theory, but is it the one? Don't know. Is it Neo for the Matrix? Is it the one? So to be able to pair up the contents of an element with the correct amount of electrons is actually a whole new thing. If it were code, though, Mackie, if it was just code, if the whole world was code, doesn't matter. Electron equals X, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're all the same. Every electron equals X, then. That's so easy. And so firing electrons at a double slit turns into a wave. Unless you look at it, then it turns into an electron, because we expect it. And I just think that's amazing. So amazing that maybe because we're here, is everything, rather than a wave, is it just what it is as we see it because we expect it to be? And that's our grandest question that we have. Ultimately, the question above all questions, the life, the universe, and everything. 42. And that's where I see it. I see that same postulation around this, and I was blown away, totally blown away. Anyway, Becky, back to you.
Back to me in the studio. I think we have Zoe, because I couldn't bring her in, but I sent her a link. Do we have you?
Hello, can you hear me?
Brilliant. Yes,
Okay.
let me introduce you very, very quickly. Sorry. Now, Zoe Graestone, Miss B, mother of cats. Is that right? You are a content creator, an artist, a magician. You are a photographer. You are an artist, a designer, a consultant. You're many things to many people, and you're a frequent guest on Solaris' show. You are a resident of these United States. Well, not us. We are obviously under the Denver airport right now.
In the crisis active room.
That's what we're doing. No, but sorry, Miss B, Zoe, did I do you justice?
Yes, I think so. That's the best way to put it. I wear many hats, and many different people get to see many different hats, and some people only see one or two hats because I got favorites. But yeah, I'd say that's pretty accurate.
Fantastic. Look, I don't want to put you on the spot. You've got a very young voice, though, so I'm not going to ask you how old you are, but I feel you are a young soul at heart, at the very least, even if you're, old and crotchety like Dave and I, which I don't think you are. So, but
Thank you.
But look, this is something we always do, and obviously you've been on Solaris' show many, many times. And
I love it.
Oh, we do love
The
Solaris in many ways. She's really great. She really is, and she's got a lot of experience, and I think with that experience comes a lot of pain as well. I think her experience was hard fought and hard won over time. But yeah, look, there's something that Dave and I, and we haven't had a guest for a little while, so excuse us if we're rusty, but we always ask our guests because obviously you've got a certain field of interest which brings you to this. It puts you on a certain path, being on this station, having your own radio show, having the background that you have, the things that you do. And I know that you were brought up in an unconventional, maybe an artistic kind of way, with what some might call in the bohemian lifestyle, but I don't want to put labels on it. But certainly, I'm curious when you either decided or realized that you were different and your path wouldn't really be the regular path of work, sleep, shop, die, kind of.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah. So it's funny. Like when I think bohemian lifestyle, I feel like I definitely don't fit in that category. But then I meet other people who kind of describe me as like bohemian, which is it's kind of recent actually. I don't think that's like a regular occurring experience for me in most of my life, but I feel like my grandmother on my dad's side was more bohemian. But I do take after her a lot, and she is an artist. She's a pianist, and pretty much everyone in my family on my dad's side is playing some kind of an instrument at some point in their life, maybe not consistently, but it's always been kind of weird for me because, like, when I was a kid, I knew I was different, but I didn't understand why. And, like, so for reference, I just turned 32. So I am fairly young, I think. I think I'm the youngest person on the radio station, actually. I'm not sure if that's for sure, but I have only ever talked to like a handful of people at the station, but I feel like they said I was one of the youngest people.
That's good.
But like, yeah, it's an honor for me. I'm like, oh hell yeah. Yeah, I don't know, when it comes to like knowing I was different and stuff, it comes in like levels, like waves almost, because my grandmother taught at a Waldorf school, and my aunt and uncle are my dad's younger siblings, and they got to go to the Waldorf school. It was a very artistic and liberal school, and I remember going a couple of times with my grandma, like during the day when she was like babysitting me in the summer and stuff. But I felt like I was. It's so funny. I was just having this conversation within myself like earlier today, but I always wondered like why I felt so out of place, and it was because I just like didn't have the same access to certain learning behaviors. Like there was classes teaching kids at the age of like 9 to 12 like how to cook and make bread, and like how to make your own baker's clay, and how to like weave baskets and clothes out of like alfalfa and stuff like that. It's weird eclectic things, but I was like, oh, this is really interesting, like I want to go to this school, but I never got a chance to. But when I was growing up, I always talked about my imaginary friends as if they were just invisible. And I thought everybody could see them because people would react to me reacting to my imaginary friends. And then I just remember one time I was doing something silly and normal child behavior, in my opinion. And someone just said, oh, wow, her imagination's going to get her in trouble because she just can't stay grounded. And I thought that was kind of weird, but I didn't think about it because I was like, okay, whatever. Like, my dad's got a big imagination. But no matter where I went in school or like at daycare or like just interacting with some of my friends, like we were always outcasts. Like we were always just weird kids. And I thought maybe it was just because I liked anime and stuff until people would come to my house and start having like really insane paranormal experiences that would absolutely freak them out. And some kids were really into it because like it's girls especially would be like, "Ooh, seance in the basement, tee," at like 12 and 13 at sleepovers, where the boys would come over and be like, "What the hell is going on in your house, dude? I am terrified. I'd like to go home." Like, and it wasn't until like high school where I was like, "Oh, this isn't normal. Like other people don't just have this weird stuff happening all the time. Other people aren't like belligerently afraid of aliens. Like it's just that's not normal. Like it's so limited." And the moment that I knew something was severely wrong with the way that I was experiencing life was when I watched Paranormal Activity.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt like a documentary. It felt like somebody was finally showing what it's like to be in my house. And that freaked me out because then all my friends were like, "What do you mean?" And I was like, "Dude, that movie, like, it penetrated my soul and made me terrified beyond any kind of like descriptors I have." The next most terrifying thing that happened to me that I don't know how to describe other than like incredibly magical and horrifying and also beautiful was when I saw God and thought my brain was literally turning to like soup. Because it was just so visceral in my spirit that like something much more significant was happening. And other people were not experiencing this. It was entirely like me and one person that I'd met. And it was just super weird. So I was like, I want to say like 16 or 17. I was like, "Oh, it's gonna be different from here out." Like adults are not gonna know what to do with me when I get out like into the world on my own. And then I got into the magic community, and that was a ride. Oh my goodness. It's a 50-50 between like being really liberal and open-minded and kind of spiritually like engaged, and then like very conservative and religious and like absolutely sure that Jesus is the only thing that's out there that could possibly have any magic to it, and the rest of it's all just crazy people talk. There was no like soft in between in that community. So like some people really believe in magic and other people are like, "Oh no, I'm just an absolute douchebag that likes to trick people out of money on the street because it's funny to make people look stupid and feed my ego." It was just like the craziest like back and forth. So I was very conflicted because I was having very extreme paranormal experiences and only a handful of people knew what I was talking about. We're like, "Yeah, that's just kind of, you're on a journey, kid." Like,
I got a question.
It's gonna be weird from here out.
I've got a question for you, and there is. I know you've just. Wow, what a first paragraph, right? So I want to ask: have you experienced any deja vu or anything like that?
All the time.
All the time.
All the time.
So
yeah, it's like it's super stressful sometimes because I feel like sometimes I'm gaslit into thinking by my higher self that I absolutely can control the move, and if I have deja vu, I can just do something different. But usually it just kind of goes the way I hope it doesn't, no matter what I choose to do, and it's super weird to like relive something that hasn't quite happened yet that you already remember the future happening.
Totally.
I don't know how other people do with it, but that's probably why I have anxiety.
So that's okay. So I've got tons of deja vu stories, but and it to me it just proves that it's all real. It doesn't matter. You just have it again and again and again. It's kind of like Groundhog Day, where he's in the restaurant and he says that someone's going to drop the dishes. That's the kind of experience, but it always comes with a feeling. Have you experienced the same thing? You know this is what deja vu is right now because I'm experiencing it. Like, you know what I mean? And then, 3 seconds later, this thing's going to happen, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. It's almost like you're riding the wave in a wave pool after the wave is already hit, but you don't think the wave has actually come yet. And so it's like this in between of processing, like, did that just happen or is it about to happen? So, and then when it happens, you're like, "Oh my God, I knew it." Like,
yeah, exactly, right? And you could tell the person next to you, "Oh, hang on, this it's weird right now. I think it's deja vu. This is going to happen in a second," and they go, and then it happens, and then I look at you. Yeah. I never fought 1 second. I never FOUGHT. I never fought against the deja vu. I sat witness to it, knowing it was happening. However, Maggie gave it a shot of fighting against to it. Be damned if I'm going to be told what to do, right?
It was the strangest thing. I was, oh my God, I was maybe 13 or 14, I want to say. And actually, maybe younger. Anyway, it doesn't matter. I was in my teens, and it was an inane thing, truly. And I was in the kitchen, and I can't remember the action, but it was as inane, as commonplace as opening a cupboard and taking out a plate. And as you get to it, and you there's this, all of a sudden it's for me it was always like a realization. Hang on, something. No, I did it. You know, it's hard, like a wave maybe, right? But it was a realization that this is what's going to happen, and I decided, nah, no, I'm not going to take the plate out, and I didn't. And it was it was the second most strange experience in my life where I felt like I had jumped tracks. Now, I don't know if everybody's familiar with the old vinyl records, right? And you know, when there was a bump or like you jump up and down in your room, it could jump tracks.
Yeah.
That's what it felt like. But there was no noise, there was no physical manifestation. But that's how my insides felt, as though I had jumped tracks when I didn't go with the deja vu. I haven't tried it since.
I'm so glad I'm not alone. You're the first person I've heard that has had that because that's how I feel when I fight against it or I try to change something. It suddenly feels like, oh shit,
right?
Yeah.
Did I mean to? Oh man, did I just mess up everything? Like, what did I just do?
I think you might have, because this is like that's why I'm glad you're here, so we can discuss this. So, I believe very strongly that we inhabit a very complex and mysterious multiverse, right? And some realities are very, very similar to ours, and some are, you know, obviously much different. And I've always kind of felt that in my mind when I was young, again, very young, I envisioned bubbles. And then I saw this drawing on New Scientist magazine a few years ago. Well, a few years ago, it's probably 20 years ago. For me, that's a few years.
Those are like a few.
I know, right? And they actually, that's how they graphically represented it on the cover, the multiverse, like bubbles. Anyway, but
that's cool.
I seem to have been sliding in and out. Now, I'm not saying, and I don't know when I am, except certain things are different. And usually,
say it.
When I skip or sliding is the wrong word. I don't even know. It's like stepping through the pages in a book, but Dave always gets worse.
Something happens to me physically when he jumps rails.
No, really?
Yeah, totally.
So we both suffer from congenital nosebleeds. So my father had it, I have it, and my youngest daughter has it, the eldest. And it's a vein in our nose that is just too big, and so we suffered nosebleeds. For my father, it stopped when he started smoking. For me, it stopped when I had it cauterized, and I had it cauterized for my younger daughter as well Now, this was a fairly big feature in my life with my daughter as well, and Dave and I never talked about it, which is unusual because we've known each other for over 20 years.
That's right.
In one of the slides, he tells me, I just had a nosebleed, a cup full of blood. I said, what? And then we started talking about it. And I said, Dave, you never told me about your nosebleeds. And then he had porous bones. And then he had spots in his lungs.
Yep.
Oh my gosh.
I'm growing the equivalent of teeth in my lungs. On the MRI, they show up looking as white as my teeth.
Oh my god, that's
so
nuts.
Okay, now I'm having a weird deja vu. Hold on a second.
Go on, yeah.
Have you talked about this on the show before?
We have. But
it's been a while.
Like,
definitely
it's
been a while.
Been quite a while, yeah.
Okay.
Not trying to freak you out. Not trying to freak you out.
Sorry,
but, we're all living in the same crazy world, but we're all, let's say, not conduits, but aware of it.
Yeah, it's just so surreal to finally hear another set of people talking about it from a perspective that I feel like I've been the only one who experiences things like that. So, like, I don't know. Okay.
Welcome
I don't mean
aboard.
to
We're all
like take
friends
from
here.
where you were going. Yeah.
No, go.
Awesome. This is like so exciting. Also, in like a really twisted, like scientific kind of like mad scientist feeling. I don't know how to explain it.
Mhm.
Okay, so to kind of, okay. I hope you can stick with me for a second.
Just
I'm gonna
start-
go a
We're
little
with
bit
you
backwards.
all the way.
Okay, so my little brother and I have had very intensely different spiritual encounters with what we can very loosely call God. And it has brought us to very, very strangely different points in our lives that are like perfect mirrors. My little brother is my twin from another multiple set of lives.
Wow.
He's usually the older twin. So he's struggling in this particular lifetime with not being the older brother. And it is like a constant battle. Oh, there's a 6.5 year difference between us, and everybody thinks he's older than me, but he clearly is the baby. Like when you look at us, he is very obviously the baby between the two of us. Although I do look very youthful, so people think I'm younger, but it's so strange. So he and I discussed in, I want to say 2017, maybe it was a little bit before that, a moment where it had to have been right before that. I was experiencing deja vu, like crazy after this like random acid trip that I did with a friend of mine, where it hit me way harder than everyone else. I found out they like double dosed me and didn't tell me, which is really messed up. But
I hope you're not busy for about a month.
oh my God, it felt like it for a while. It was like 2 solid days where I was like, okay, I need this to stop though. Like this is terrifying.
Wow.
Only because I can't explain to people that I genuinely can't tell if this is a hallucination or if this is just my regular life happening and just a little bit more vividly. Because I didn't really smoke weed at the time.
Did you have a guide?
He
or someone
did.
To help you through?
He did.
Cool. All right.
Well, not a physical guide.
That's fine.
No, my friends
Mhm.
just kind of left me to it. But
Oh,
there
wow.
was this,
Space
yeah,
coyote.
there was this dragon that
Mm.
kept finding me.
Wow.
And the first time I remember like processing that it was telling me what was happening and it was like a spirit guide, I was in another dimension. Like I had fallen through dimensions, and my friend said that he thought I died for like a solid 30 minutes because I just stopped breathing and the life left my body for a minute, but like he could tell that I was still tethered. And he wasn't a spiritual person. He was very atheist, very against a lot of beliefs. But he said that night in particular, I was not in my body and something else was, but I wasn't breathing. And he was super scared that they had accidentally killed me. But the dragon was telling me that I had just slipped sideways in the dimensions. And like I could easily just go back, but I have to pull my tether tight. And it was teaching me how to play chess. So I didn't know how to play chess. It did not make sense to me. And so the dragon was showing me so that I could not only find this like doorway back to the tether where the tether would be like loose and able to like reel myself back in.
Yeah.
Also so that I would be able to understand some strategic moves that people would make in my future that would make absolutely no sense to me in the moment, and it would take years to process. Like that was what had happened. But he was telling me to like just always never let them see your next move. And it's funny because like the internet makes jokes about that with like memes of people just doing like really silly things. That's how I feel spiritually when deja vu comes, because I'm an absolute like chaotic bundle of I don't know what. I cannot seem to just listen when I'm told to do something. I tend to go out of my way to be like, no, you can't tell me what to do. Why do I have to do that? But why though? But why though? But why though? And it drives everything insane. I don't care if it's a human being. I don't care if it's a star being. I look at my cat and ask them why, and they get mad at me. I just question everything, like almost to a fault. So my brother and I are having this conversation about this particular acid trip that I'd had, because he had done acid and was like, I gotta talk about some stuff. And he had a very similar experience. In his, he was watching my acid trip, like from my outside of a perspective of me, like seeing me and the dragon interact, and then was watching that there was someone else interacting with me from a distance where it was mostly telepathic. We never actually saw each other or physically touched each other, but we were constantly talking to each other. And he could see that there was a person, but he couldn't see features. So then this crazy weird moment of deja vu happened in 2017. My brother, it was the first time he had done acid, and one of his friends went way too deep and they had some crazy stuff happen. They opened a portal in the basement. Long story short, it really affected me because it noticed that I was the stronger one in the house and everyone else wasn't going to feed it energetically long enough. And it basically already sucked everything it could out of them. So here I am, this absolute extra chaos energy, big bounding light that just attracts all of the bugs.
Mm-hmm.
And I had gone outside to yell at God. And I was being facetious. I was just frustrated. So I was just going to go yell at the stars and see if anything happened. And I did, and something did happen. And I had this like epiphany that led to this like insane spiritual experience of meeting God. But I'm telling my brother about all this. And he says, oh, that thing you talked about, like in the video games when time like resets itself and there's just this like physical bar you can see of time shifting and the universe like moving or adjusting or, resetting, however you want to perceive it. He was like, it's about to hit us. You should make a decision. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he was like, it's not going to be the same me next time I see you, but hopefully I'll be better. And I don't talk about it as much because it freaks me out because it freaks my mom out and stuff too. But I shifted and so did my brother. And then a part of us shifted and it was almost like I blinked and I was on a different part of the house and he was downstairs. And then we had the whole conversation again, minus the time shifting part. And I was trying not to freak out because I'm getting goosebumps and having like a panic attack because I'm like, we already talked about this. And he was like, what are you talking about? Like, I literally my friend just left like 5 minutes ago. And I'm like, bro, it's been like 2 hours. And he's like, no, it literally just happened. Like, you're crazy. Like, stop doing drugs. And I was like, first of all. But that was like the first time. And then my brother's just like, here's this extra person, right? And this time, instead of shifting, he says, there's a time traveler messing up our lives. We have to find him. Because if we don't, he's going to go too far and change too many things. And there's going to be an absolute chaotic moment where like everything breaks. And then all the pieces are going to get mixed up. And it's just going to be absolute hell for everything and everyone, like in a large, like vast expanse of space-time. And I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he was like, I'm not even joking. Like, we really have to find this time traveler. He is not only affecting your life, but everything that you do reflects like intensely around other people. And my brother just had this like crazy enlightening conversation with information that came from I don't know where, but it was not my little brother speaking entirely. Like he was processing it for sure in real time, but I don't know where that information was coming from, but somebody was trying to give us a message and it was using both of us to communicate either to itself or to someone else. And it was so crazy because then my brother started having deja vu. And then we both started trying to figure out, like, when we think we're having deja vu, is it smarter to stay on the path or directly oppose it?
Yeah.
And for whatever reason, I just have to directly oppose it every time because I feel like life is already circles constantly interconnected. And you can always come back full circle to stuff. But sometimes you get off track, like you were saying, where I was thinking bubbles and stuff. Time feels like a circle to me. Like, yes, there are some straight lines, kind of. But for the most part, it's a very flowy, circular kind of thing because you come into a lot of reflective experiences in life, right? Sometimes you have a situation where you're like, I've done this before. I'm at the time of the test and I didn't pay attention. There's a multiple choice and I've definitely answered at least 2 of these before. And I don't know if I did something wrong here or later. And that's what trips me up. It's always when I get to that deja vu questionnaire, like the pop quiz, it's always, were you paying attention? Is it A, B, C, or D? And it's always like, man, and I never remember what I chose last time. But if I sometimes go with my first instinct, I feel like the first instinct is to answer the question of, did I choose this last time? Yes. As opposed to, is this a different chance this time? Like, is this a different answer I should go for? And that drives me nuts because sometimes I know I chose wrong the second I make the decision because I'm going for the first question.
Again. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, God dang it. Like, it drives me insane. But one of my friends, I don't know who, because we don't talk anymore, but somebody's having physical effects in their life that's making them super sick. I feel it in my spirit that someone I'm connected to is not having a good time when I do that. Something terrible happens to somebody I'm connected with somewhere. I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes the world just doesn't feel right. And it feels like I have personally done something negative to somebody that like is ruining their life. It's a very specific feeling of guilt, and it comes from what feels like nowhere.
That's right.
Yeah, and it's just like it's literally just like, oh, I made a decision to do something for myself today, and then the world shifts, and it's like, was that a butterfly effect? Wait, who is affected? So sometimes I'll just pop on the internet and be like, hey, how's everyone doing? Heckin', are we good? Like, do any of you have anything you want to share?
And they're like,
Any
uh-oh.
strange happenings?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
some people are like, yo, I have to tell you something crazy. And other people are like, no, crazy girl, like, what are you doing? Just have a breath. Like, not everything has to be magic and spiritually inclined. And it's like,
But it is.
I mean, if you say so, but that's not my experience.
No, it absolutely is. Can I just say something to you, which you really freaked me out as you were relaying your story with your, let's call it a trippy experience, shall we? Just for
Yeah.
common parlance. In the year 2000, I went to a rave, and it was probably the last one I went to. And I took a
Kind of
cocktail.
jealous.
No, it doesn't. Don't be. I took a cocktail of God knows what. I have no idea. I honestly don't know. But it is where it gets sort of weird. And this is sort of what you just saying triggered me. I told Dave this, and I think I've mentioned on the show a couple of times, but we left and went to my friend's house in a city somewhere. I can't remember, maybe Croydon or somewhere. It doesn't matter, Petersham. But anyway, point is, I lost time. And when I say I lost time, it doesn't mean I missed time or I misplaced time. I mean, time was gone. And this sounds weird because people were having conversations around me, and there was no chronological flow that I could follow. So let's say you say something, then Dave says something. For me, there was no sequence. And for the longest time, this lasted hours and hours. When you said it was like hell, I know exactly how you feel. And I could not make sense of any conversations. Some things people were saying to me, I thought, that's not, you never worked for the railway. That's not what. And again, I didn't know where I was from a time perspective in the conversation. So I kept quiet, shut up. It took probably the better part of 36 hours to get out of it. And my friends told me afterwards they were contemplating taking me to the hospital. But one of my friends said, I knew you'd come out of it. I knew you're strong enough. Far out. Thanks, buddy. Thanks for that.
Thank you.
But,
Thank you for the vote of confidence.
You're on my Christmas card list.
The thing is this, though, right? This, and ever since then, I've never been quite sure whether or not I actually did come out of it. Because my life has been, in many ways, I wouldn't say charmed, but, I mean, just take this radio show, for example, right? No, really. Dave pings me out of the blue and says, hey, you'll be on the radio? I say, okay. My job, my family, my wife, the things I've been able to experience, the travel I've been able to undertake, it all seems, from the year 2000 to now, it seems to be highly unlikely. Like a manifestation that of such a magnitude that I was working in retail in the year 2000. Okay, I had just done a computer course, and trust me, I'm in a very different place now. But
I believe it.
I always question though whether or not I actually came out of it, and I think what also happened at that point, more than any other time, I felt like it started my stepping, sliding, skipping. I don't know what you want to call it. But trust me, when all the things you just mentioned earlier just triggered me. Sorry, that's what I had to just.
No, that's really interesting. You don't have to apologize to me for being a person. Goodness. No, that's really interesting though. It's so rare that I hear other people's perspectives of feeling like they're, I don't know what the word is. Tripping, slipping, falling, connecting, accidentally stepping into, sneezing wrong. Like, I feel like I learned about what quantum physics was, and the idea that there's a bajillion of you in the room at any given time making whatever decision, and you're only tuning in to one particular moment, doing one particular thing. Sometimes I feel like mine switches, like moment to moment or day to day or even like week to week. Like sometimes I wake up and things are just different. Like the first time that I recognized that happened was after I had a rebirth experience where I tried to cease to exist on this physical plane, and I went to, I don't know, another dimension, and I had a whole come to God moment, which is crazy because that happened before 2017, like 2012. And sometimes those experiences feel like they happen within like moments of each other, but I know years. Like it's like reliving it sometimes when I think about it because I know exactly where in time those two things happen, almost like they're canon events or something. But when I realized something was off, was like all of a sudden my family was a bunch of people I didn't recognize. Friends didn't recognize me. People said I looked different. People I thought would always remember me suddenly didn't know who I was. And some of my friends just were not my friends. Like, I don't know who those people were. They were wearing my friend's face. You know what I mean? Like, it was one of those, like, I feel like an imposter. Have you ever seen Fringe?
Yeah,
The TV series? So, like, the moment where, like, Olivia gets sort of, like, confused as to, like, where she actually is in time and space. I think it's, like, in the 5th season or something. She's just, like, you don't know where she is, like which universe she is. It's very confuddled, but it also feels like it hasn't happened yet. It's like it feels kind of like that sometimes with the bubbles where like almost like they're just touching and things are overlapping a little bit and you get like a Venn diagram, and if you just happen to be in the wrong part of the bubble of the Venn diagram, like weird stuff happens. But if you step out of it, sometimes stuff goes back like it didn't happen, and then you're like, no, that happened, and everyone else is like, what are you talking about? That didn't happen. There's 6 of us here. No one saw that. And it's like, are you gaslighting me right now? Are you lying to me right now? And it's like, yeah. So I feel like I don't know how to describe it because I don't know what that phrase would be even for bubbles where they sort of accumulate and dissipate, like move. They're just kind of shifting.
We don't have the language.
Bubbles.
Yeah, we don't have the language.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I definitely don't. I don't know that there is words, but everybody. It's a feeling. I feel like everybody can probably imagine like how it both feels and looks like with soap, almost like soap bubbles specifically, because I feel like those kind of like, 100%. I definitely feel that. And it's interesting too, because I think more people are experiencing that, which means it feels like the bubbles are like getting closer together. I don't know if it's condensing space or the bubbles are getting bigger, maybe. I don't know. Everything's just like...
No, you're right, and we spoke about the time factor as well. But I think you're 100% correct. There is a change, and I feel this change is becoming stronger and faster. Because, and again, this is just me. I firmly believe that we are here, and not necessarily out of our own free will, and we are pushed into imagining this reality. Even our biological form, which is perfectly suited for linear thinking, 2 eyes to the front, and we've got a very defined back, which makes no sense to me, but biologically speaking, but it already guides our thoughts in a certain direction. There's forward and there's backward, right? And this linearity in thinking, this collapsing of the waveform into this particular reality, or neighborhood of realities, let's call it, is deliberate in my opinion. And we spoke about this as part of the hypothesis for I guess the overarching Shiny Set Out show cycle over the last 600 shows, where the question was always, why are we here, right? What's the purpose of us being here? And I think we're here to collapse the waveform into this particular neighborhood of realities, right? Why? I don't know. But I think we're being forced. But people like yourself and others that are realizing, maybe even Dave and I, who knows, even though we're old and our pineal gland is, surely turned into a tooth by now, we are trying to break free of this predetermined and prescribed reality that we are meant to imagine. Because the thing is this: what makes the quantum function collapse? Our expectation. What's our expectation? Well, whatever we've been taught, right?
Right.
But your spirit and people like you, and I find, again, I don't want to harp on the age, but I see a lot of younger people being more aware, more than I said. Well, I was a special case as a child, I guess, but certainly my peer group that I grew up with, nobody had any of these thoughts. And Dave and I were lucky to grow up in similar circumstances to yourself, I guess, where our spirituality wasn't crippled, but rather, deliberately or otherwise encouraged, I guess.
Yeah, I feel that.
Although I did reject initially, because I was a science person. My mother was a medium, and she was right in the paranormal. She believed everything that was non-mainstream, and she ran with it. And I just couldn't accept it as a teenager as well as she could, because it had to be tangible, testable, repeatable, and then I fell into it so strongly and started to have my own realizations about what this all meant. And now I'm my mother as so many 50 years earlier. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Without the parents saying, that's stupid, don't do that anymore, don't think about it like that, don't say those words, don't act like that, none of what you're talking about is real. I didn't encounter that, and you didn't encounter it, I presume. Is that right?
It was it was very mixed for me. So my parents, for the most part, didn't discourage my imagination, although they would sometimes heckle me about it because other people would do it. But for the most part, my parents they just sort of let me say crazy, weird stuff, and they were just like, "Hey, maybe don't share that outside the house." Maybe those are inside thoughts. My dad is very eclectic like me. My dad thinks like I do, and my mom is recently starting to really give herself time and space and permission to
Wow.
See if she comes back. We got 3 minutes to the bumpers.
That's okay. Zoe, you still there? Oh. Hello. Hello. This must still be the. Maybe it's the CIA stepped in. The NSA.
My handler. So can you your elbows on the mute button? That's right. Well, hopefully
she's not muted. She is.
No, I know. But remember, there's two mutes. Mutes can be evil.
True.
One can be on your headset.
That's true.
Separate and non-Microsoft.
Yeah, she's an experienced radio person. She's maybe. Oh.
Yeah, looks like she's bailed just momentarily. Hopefully, she comes back. Interesting stuff. Gonna say, isn't it?
She really triggered me, Dave. I'm so glad that she was with us. I mean, hopefully she can come back, but she really triggered a lot of the things she said. Oh, I'm sure you felt it. Oh, I don't want to say I'm sure, but
likewise.
Yeah. Okay, cool. It was just, but I do believe that a lot more people are coming through that are younger, that are feeling this way and thinking this way. And, maybe the narrative is going to change after all. And maybe you and I were just born 30 years too early. Who knows? So, all possible. There she is.
And welcome back.
Oh, wow. That was crazy. Oh, my goodness. I don't know what happened. My computer just, stopped working.
It's just the CIA interrupting our conversation.
I was about to say, this hasn't happened in a while, so it's kind of exciting. I'm over here like, hey, man. Why are you guys trying to silence me?
Look, yes. That happens. In fact, when we first started, Zoe, this happened a lot. It happened a lot.
Oh, wow.
It was funny.
I'm surprised it hasn't happened to me more recently, especially with having Talib on the radio with me. He has the same kinds of stuff happen to him all the time, and not as much anymore, but there are definitely sometimes in the past where we'd be talking and somebody would interrupt the call every 10, 15, 30 seconds.
Yep.
Really?
And they didn't want us talking about stuff. Talib would call me and he'd be like, "Yo, B, I've got this crazy stuff to tell you," and then it would hang up. He would call me back and he'd be like, "Yo, listen." And he'd get a few minutes in and then it would hang up. And it was just it was constant. It was so hard for us to keep in contact on the phone for years. And then it didn't happen for a while. So this is the first time in a while they're trying to tell me to shush. So yeah. I must be on something.
Well, I believe very strongly. I know we haven't got a lot of time here, but if you want to stay for the second hour, please feel free.
Sure.
It'd be great. There's music. Whenever like minds get together, the powers that be get nervous, is my opinion. Sorry, Dave, you can take us up?
Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to say this is the end of Dave Mackey's Shiny Side after the first hour. There's going to be a small break, and then we'll be back with our guest, Miss B. So stay tuned, take a break, take the time to donate, and we'll see you very, very